Hello everybody, I'm Jackie K. Cooper, and my entertainment rundown for today is a continuation of a video that I released last week about my career, leading, how my life led up to me being a movie critic on YouTube, all the steps along, because so many of you have written to me and said, how can I basically get to be you? And so last week I told you the early stages, growing up, and when I left you last week, I had started writing for the Perry newspaper in Perry, Georgia, where I live today, and I was writing a column called That's Entertainment, which was just movie news, basically. And I was thinking about it after I did the one last week that I should say, when I was growing up, when I was a child, when my mother would come in to hear my prayers and tuck me into bed and say goodnight, and she'd kiss me goodnight, and she would whisper in my ear, she'd say, "You are so special." And I believed her. I thought, she knows something I don't know, but if she says I'm special, I must be special. And later on in my life, I thought, I feel so bad for my brother. I was special and he wasn't, or at least I was told I was special and he didn't get told. But then I found out, I think, that my mother told him the same thing, that he was special. But the difference was, and he's very successful, and I'm not demeaning his achievements and anything, but from the very start, I believed it. He didn't. He just thought she was just saying that, whereas I believed it. Hook, line, sinker. I thought, there are possibilities out there, for all these things I could do. I should have believed it more, and I probably wouldn't have gone to law school. I would have been a writer or whatever. But I did have it in my mind that my mother said I was special. So when I was, working at Robins Air Force Base, and I had gotten this great opportunity to write for the House and Home Journal, which was the newspaper in the county seat where I lived. It was just fantastic because every week, and I think at one point we even ran it maybe twice a week. That's Entertainment would come out and people would say, "Oh, I read your column. That's great. I was wondering about this movie or that movie or this, that, and the other." And so it became very successful. Bobby Branch, the owner editor, told me, he said, "Jackie, people are really enjoying this. I'm so glad." And then he came to me and he said, "People are enjoying this so much. Why don't you write another column?" And I said, "What about?" And he said, "Well, what do you like besides movies?" And I said, "I like to read." And he said, "Okay, write a column about books." So I started a second column called Novel Ideas, Novel Ideas. And that ran, in the paper along with That's Entertainment. And I had just been, going to the library, checking out books and reading them, and that's the ones I review. And we had a new bookstore open in Perry, and a woman named Joan Chase, I remember vividly, Joan Chase owned it and managed it. And some of my greatest times were going down. There was a fireplace at the front of the bookstore and two big chairs, and I would go in there and sit down, and Joan and I would discuss books. And when I started Novel Ideas, she said, if you want to review a certain book, she said, I'll be glad to provide it to you because it gives people the idea to come into my bookstore and buy the books. But she said, I'll make a better suggestion. She said, get some letterhead stationery, fixed, created, put your name, address, etc., and then list over the side, the House and Home Journal, because that was the only thing that was carrying me then. And she said, write to the publicity departments at all the major, book publishers, and they will send you the books. And we had a printing company in Perry, and I went to them told him how I wanted the layout to be, Jackie K. Cooper reviews, address, etc., and had envelopes made up and sent them off to the major publishers saying, I review books and I would appreciate you sending me review copies of your major publications that you have coming out. And I'm going to tell you, my wife will tell you, we have been swamped with books ever since. I mean, they send them, whether I get the chance to review them or not, they send them on the possibility that I will review the books. And that was all Joan Chase. I mean, now, you can contact the publicity departments through the internet. I'll sometimes write to the individual people, or they'll contact me saying we have a new book coming out by, Daniel Silva. Would you like to get a review copy of it, etc. Or they don't even contact me; they just send the books. And my wife says we are overrun with books, and I guess we are. But I love books and the whole thing. But that's where I was. Here I am. I've got That's Entertainment. I've got novel ideas. I've got books coming in for me to review. At this time, I made an arrangement with the local theaters that I would publicize the movies that were coming out, and they would allow me to, come to the movie. Just let them know who I was and walk in. I mean, that was fantastic right there, because I always went to the movies, and now I went even more. There was nothing that came out that I didn't go see. But I'm writing 2 columns, That's Entertainment and Novel Ideas, and Bobby comes to me, Bobby Branch, and said, these 2 columns are so popular, why don't you write a 3rd column? And I said, Bobby, I'm writing about movies, I'm writing about books, those are my two main passions. And he said, well, surely there's something else. And I said, well, I do like to watch TV. And he said, great, well, now we'll start a TV column. And I said, that's going to be really egotistical on my part, where you're going to look into the House and Home Journal and you're going to see column by Jackie K. Cooper, column by Jackie K. Cooper, column by Jackie K. Cooper. 3 columns in one paper. I mean, that's a little much. And he said, okay, use an alias. What? And he said, write it under another name. Come up with something, write it under another name. Well, this is a story. I hope I can get through the whole thing. But when I was in high school, we always I went to the First Baptist Church, Clinton, South Carolina. We had a youth group, and every summer we would go to Ridgecrest, which was church camp. And it was basically my little core group of friends that went. And one year, I don't know why, it was when I was in high school, I decided, when I go to Ridgecrest this year, I'm not going to be Jackie Cooper. I'm going to be somebody else. And I came up with the name Rock Dixon. Rock for Rock Hudson, because he was the biggest movie star that there was at the time. And then Dixon, because there was a football player that was legendary in Lawrence County, where I lived, by the name of King Dixon. So I decided for that 1 week at church camp, I would be Rock Dixon. And everybody in my group went along with it. I mean, I met people who to this day think they met somebody named Rock Dixon. When I got home, I got correspondence I had met a girl from Savannah. She only knew me as Rock or Rocky Dixon. And so we corresponded, and I would sign my letters Rock Dixon, and the postman delivered them to my house. But so when Bobby Branch said to me, why don't you write under an alias, Rock Dixon became a writer. So we had That's Entertainment by Jackie K. Cooper, Novel Ideas by Jackie K. Cooper, and I don't remember, it was like TV View or something like that by Rock Dixon. Now, the funny thing about this is that I would have people, call me up and say, I don't know why Bobby Branch had to bring in somebody new. You're the entertainment guy. Why do we need this guy named Rock Dixon? He's not half the writer you are. and we just don't like him. So Rock Dixon's column never caught on. I don't think it ran more than maybe a month or so at the most, and then, I don't know, Rock Dixon moved away or whatever. But I did have that moment when I was writing 3 columns, $5 a column, remember, that was $15. But at that time, too, I was going out looking at other newspapers in the area. I remember I went over to Hawkinsville, Georgia, went to the local newspaper there, went in to see the editor, handed in my movie reviews and said, I wondered if you would like to, run these in your newspaper. And he sat there and read it, and he said, I wouldn't line my bird cage with this. It is that worthless. Now, I had been riding a high. That was kind of smacked me back down. But I didn't give up. I kept going. I went to Fort Valley. The guy over there, Wilton Walton, who was the editor, he said, yeah. And so we started running my stuff in the Fort Valley paper. And then out of the blue, Bobby decided to sell the Houston Home Journal. And he sold the Houston Home Journal to a man named Millard Grimes. And Millard Grimes owned like 10 or 15 other papers. And that's when my writing career really took off. So we'll leave it there for this week. Again, I hope that this will give you encouragement of things that you can do, things that you can dare to try if you want a career as a critic or a writer or whatever. So don't give up. Hopefully you'll learn from me and my experiences through my life to get here where I am today. But for today, this has been Jackie K. Cooper's Entertainment Rundown with the story of my journey and career, part 2.